If you've read Bill's bio, you know he's Tarrant County, Fort Worth native. He knows us. He's been deeply engaged in these issues. He was appointed by the governor in 2008 as one of the 5 commissioners that make decisions about how TxDOT's dollars are allocated, at least those they're given the opportunity to allocate. And I think given the things you've heard both about recommendations for TxDOT's future and the criticalness of the mobility issues, we thought it was timely for you to hear directly from the commissioner who represents our part of Texas to talk about these issues, because there's a lot coming at us, not only in the legislative session, but in meetings council members will host about rail, and meetings we'll be having to talk about the need of Arlington's future transit needs. Please don't assume 3 bridges solved every mobility issue in the city. It was a nice beginning. There's more to do, isn't there? And so please join me in giving our Commissioner Bill Meadows a warm welcome.
Let's just begin with trying to quantify the challenges that we face in transportation in Texas today. Let's remember this. Over the last 25 years, the population of the state of Texas has increased approximately 50%. An increase in population in the state brought with them a 100% increase, or doubling of the number of registered motor vehicles in the state. And that's in 25 years. At the same time, we've had the capital to have increased roadway capacity in the state by approximately 8%. And when you think about the fact that we have only been able to increase roadway capacity by 8% in the last 25 years, responding to a doubling of the number of motor vehicles, it tells you we have some very congested areas. In fact, 2 of our metropolitan areas in the state, including the Dallas-Fort Worth area, are on the top 10 list of most congested metropolitan areas in the United States. The Commission, Texas Transportation Commission, initiated a study. Texas Transportation Institute, business and industry leaders, citizenry came together. The 2030 committee had a task, had a goal, which was to attempt to quantify the amount of money it was going to take between those known resources and what we estimated the total cost of meeting the transportation needs would be by the year 2030. And that number is north of $300 million. And when you consider that right now we're spending on average of less than $8 billion, and that number moves a little bit with stimulus money and other such things that have come into play, but you do the math on that and we don't come anywhere close. We're going to be unless something dramatically changes in terms of new monies, new resources, we're going to fall significantly short and not be able to truly meet the transportation infrastructure needs of the citizenry. That's really, those of you that drive Interstate 35 on a regular basis, and most of you do, know that there is a section of Interstate 35 from Hillsborough, Texas to just south of Slato, Texas, that is, it's in its initial configuration. Going back to the 1960s, it's 4 lanes. We are in the process of investing $1.2 billion in expanding that facility for a 91-mile stretch. The construction is underway. It is going to be, by the way, a nightmare for the next 3 years. So just be aware of that, and I would sure check road conditions before you hit the road. Let's talk about 360 for a second. I know a number of you all have a real interest in 360. Taneska from the NTTA is here. Glad to see that. As you all know, you all may be aware that the North Texas Tollway Authority has declared primacy on that project, meaning they will be the deliverer of the project from roughly Interstate 20. I think it's really more like Green Oaks, would you say, south to 287. I've seen it on the map, but I always try to think of it as Interstate 20 to 287. That project is actually moving ahead. It's like any of these projects. We wish that it was moving faster. We know the need is great. It's just a very cumbersome process. That's just the way we do transportation, and it's from environmental to the engineering to design. It's currently in the environmental assessment stage. We are coordinating and working with the NTTA in a partnership fashion to deliver the project. 61, I think, is an important project, certainly to Arlington. That project is advancing quickly. Probably a historic, no, without a doubt, a historic collaborative between the Texas Department of Transportation, the RTC, and the NTTA has enabled that project to advance, and significant public resources from the department, including the Texas Department of Transportation for the first time using our resources, Fund 6, our revenue source, to provide essentially a loan guarantee to the NTTA, which reduced the borrowing cost on that project by millions of dollars, enabling it to move ahead. So that project That project, much of it, of course, as you know, is open and is a very useful project in terms of facilitating the flow of traffic into the entertainment district and into Arlington in general. TxDOT is the road agency, and there's a reason for that. We're criticized from time to time, as you know, for a number of things, but one is, why didn't you do something about rail sooner? And you say, well, because our primary source of revenue is constitutionally restricted to bridges and roadways. We cannot spend it on rail. There are some other sources of funds that we can invest in rail, but it's very small comparatively. And the department actually created a division specifically focused on rail activities approximately 18 months ago. And that's a real step for TxDOT. It doesn't sound like much just creating the division, but believe me, at TxDOT, that is a real step forward. And we, of course, were successful in receiving some planning money for high-speed rail. And that is, we are advancing that at this point. That quarter initially came back, it's kind of interesting, it was to enable us to study, as I recall, a route from Oklahoma City to Dallas-Fort Worth. And we raised our hands and said, you might want to go ahead and extend that on down to San Antonio. Several projects that are very important to this region that are currently subject to a moratorium prohibiting them from being provided as a public-private partnership. The 183 project through Irving, which is really a continuation, if you will, of the NTE that's currently under construction, really is a significant project and needs to advance. We've already invested, TxDOT has already invested about 176 million, as I remember, in that project, mostly right-of-way acquisition, and we've done some intersection work. But we don't have additional resources to advance it at this point in time. We have approximately 50% of the right-of-way already acquired for that project, which a lot of people don't know. We hope, if the legislature makes the policy decision and decides that, in fact, it should be delivered as a public-private partnership, we're poised to move that project forward very quickly. We have a lot of work done, and we've kept a lot of the environmental and some of the engineering has continued to move. So just because it's been subject to a moratorium prohibiting us from delivering it as a public-private partnership doesn't mean that we haven't continued to advance it. So bottom line is, it's important. We've already have a significant investment of public funds in the project. We're waiting for authorization for the legislature to continue to move ahead, and we have a plan given that we are given that authority to advance the project to completion.